Hi, my name is Joanne, and this is the first edition of Tech Tuesday on the Broadcast Sunny channel. So I started my career off as a software engineer, and through the years I have often heard people declare that programming is difficult. It is not. Despite what some arrogant programmers will tell you, it's not that difficult. So I thought this would be a great opportunity for Tech Tuesday to go over programming basics. Spend a few videos to do this. So this is one of a series. So there are three basic programming statements. This excludes any input or output statements. The input-output would be asking the user, like, what is your name? Or printing out somebody's name or something to that effect. Three basic programming statements: the assignment statement, the if-then-else, and the loop. So these three basic programming statements, whenever I'm learning a new programming language, I'll look into these three statements because you're going to use them quite frequently. So the assignment statement, that is about holding data. So I can have something like x equals 525, where x is the variable and 525 is the value. So you're setting a value to a variable. And this could be a number. You can do a manipulation at this point. It could also be a string, or a character, or even a Boolean. A Boolean meaning true or false. In many cases you do have to declare the variable, but that is not always the case. You can learn more about that, but I'm just giving you the very basics of what you need to know for programming. So the if-then-else. This is, to me, the heart of the programming. Granted, data is very important to run a program, but if-then-else is the programming logic. This is the ones that will say, if this is true, then do that. Every programming language has it, and pretty much all of them. I think there's one, and I can't think of the name, that does not actually use if-then-else. Those actual words. Yeah. Anyway, so here's an example. If the light switch is on, then the light goes on. Another example for, say, a traffic light. If the light is green, then go. Else, or otherwise, if the light is yellow, then slow down. Else, or otherwise, stop. You notice I didn't say else if the light is red, stop. And the reason I do something like this is because that means any color that might come through, whether it be blue or green, well, not green because green and yellow is defined there, or pink or orange, it will tell you to stop in case there is a bug in the system. On the other hand, some people might want to put else if the light is red, stop. And if there's any color that does not fit these three, it will continue to go where the light is supposed to be. I mean, where the light state was in the first place. There's different ways to programming, and it depends on your, I want to say artistic, that's not a good word, of what you feel is most important. But that is one way to use the if-then-else. And then there is the case or the switch statement, and I put this here because it's basically a glorified if-then-else statement, but put in a neater way. And I say that if you ever come across it, it's great. I use case and switch, but like I said, it's really just a glorified if-then-else. Okay, now the loop. The loop is really just repeating code over and over again, and there's two ways you can do this. There's the counter, which steps through a series of programming statements until the counter is reached. So you might have 1 to 10, step 1 at a time. I say that because sometimes you can step 2, maybe 3 or 4 at a time. but one at a time, and then you can run through that program, those lines of codes 10 times. And then there's the conditional, which runs through a group of statements until a certain condition is met, and I will give you an example of that. So here is some code that I tried to write as much in layman's terms as possible, but it's not always easy. But it shows you the while loop, which is a conditional statement. There's other loops that doesn't use while. They use something else. I can't think of it right now. But this is the one I originally learned from, so it's still stuck in my head. Okay, so we are using an assignment statement here, which is time equals 0. And then while the light is green, this is a loop statement, a conditional loop statement, because here's the condition, light is green, then go. Now see, I have these brackets because the beautiful thing about programming languages, it has a kind of grammar or syntax to help you organize your code. For instance, this semicolon, I see it as a period in English. Now, Python has taken the semicolon out, and I have met Python programmers who think that's so cool. I think it's irresponsible. I program in Python myself, and I think it's poor programming grammar, but they're cool, so what are you gonna do? Anyway, while the light is green, go, and then here's your conditional statement or your if then else. If time equals 30, now you notice I'd use 2 equal signs. It can be different depending on the language, but I wanted to distinguish this different from this assignment statement. I'm not assigning anything here, I'm just checking to see if this is true. So if time equals 30, then the light is red, period. And then we go to the next line. There is no else statement here, as you can notice, but we're adding, changing the data, the assignment statement again. I forgot my semicolon here. In Python, I'd be fine. But time equals time plus 1. There's many different ways to write this, believe it or not, depending on the language. And then we go back up to the while loop to see if the light is green. Once this is true and the light is red, and we come up to this conditional statement, and the light is red, we skip all this, so we're no longer looping through, and we go to the next line and continue with the code. There are different ways to write this programming language. Like I could have put this condition, time equals 30, up here and just say go and time equals time plus 1, and then when I get through this I can put light is red on the bottom here when it pops out, but this is just one way to write it. That is a programmer's prerogative. Just like there are different ways to write an essay, there are different ways to write programming logic. The key to programming logic, though, is making sure nothing slips through the cracks. So that is Tech Tuesday, and that is your programming basics. Like I said, those 3 statements, the assignment, if then else, for the loop, those are in every programming language, no matter where you go. And then there's, each language has its own, no, all the languages are the same. I don't care what they tell you. They're all the same. They might store data differently, but it's basically storing data, manipulating data, going through the logic to go through something, to go through the program that you want to build, and then looping. And even then, you don't need looping because you could just write the programming so many times. But anyway, next week I will go over some programming, some programs that you can learn programming online and help you along your way to a programming career. Yay, because everything's programmed now. You got apps, you got games, I actually have heard, and that I wouldn't mind doing a video on. There are computers programming too, which is crazy, because if a computer can program its own program, now you're getting more into the sci-fi robotic world or AI world. Anyway, if you like this video, please like, share, subscribe. If you have any questions, please comment below, or just say hi. And that's it for today.